What's up, YouTubers and OBS Ninja fans? My name's John Myer, and you're going to want to stick around because joining me today is OBS Ninja developer Steve Seguin, and we're going to be talking about the latest release of OBS, version 16. Also, if you're interested in learning more about YouTube and, of course, the hottest free tool out there, OBS Ninja, don't forget to smash that like, hit subscribe, and that notification button. Let's get started. Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us here and talking about OBS Ninja version 16.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I always appreciate and enjoy doing these. We're going to make it as quick as possible, but we want to bring you the most informative information on the release. Steve, before we begin, can you give our audience a little bit of what is OBS Ninja?
Absolutely. OBS Ninja at its core is a very simple production tool, primarily focused for users of OBS, maybe vMix, tools like that. It lets you bring in high quality, low latency video via peer-to-peer technology from browser into your mixing studio. It also incorporates functionality for more advanced purposes like group rooms, recording, closed captioning, aspects like that. So it's a collection now of production tools and services, but you can use it for much more than that. You can use it for just having a chat.
So, Steve, I use OBS Ninja exclusively for all my content and recording with various people, including yourself, other Amazonians. I really love the tool and use it. As you know, I'm a huge fan of it.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Well, Steve, 3 weeks ago, we did a video on version 15 that included updates around recording options, labels, simplified invite options. You know what? If you want to take a look at version 15's release video that we did 3 weeks ago, go ahead and take a look up here. I'll also drop a link in the description below. Now, Steve, let's talk about version 16. What do you have in store for us?
So version 16 is a mix of some highly requested features, but there's also been a lot of improvements that maybe aren't really feature related. Improvements to the backend, improvements to the efficiency, the quality, trying to improve things for macOS, for example. But there are some pretty cool features for the director and guests, and I can cover those.
Yeah, why don't you jump right into it here? I'm going to switch some scenes.
Awesome. Okay, so I think I have OBS Ninja up here as a screen share for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to join a room as the director. I'm just going to create a random name and join in.
Well, Steve, while you're doing that, I got to tell you, today I learned actually pretty cool, something I haven't seen before. I created a room and I added the password, and then I joined and I messed up on the password and it said, your password's invalid. Refresh and try again. I think that was actually a cool feature I noticed.
So there's no password being stored on the servers. I try to do everything client side. So You might notice there's a little keyword called hash in the URL. When you enter your password, it validates the password has a similar hash, and it then just lets you know that it was wrong. It doesn't actually check on the server, so it's just a little error correction there.
Great security option there of not hosting or having the password onto the server, but checking the hash. Actually, I like that feature because there has been so many times I might have messed up the password on my end. I joined a room and everybody's like, hey, you're not there, or somebody joined and they're not there, and they didn't realize they typed the password wrong.
That was a huge problem. I solved it without breaking the philosophy of OBS Ninja, which is try to be client side, not server side. And you don't need the hash key there. It's there just for your convenience. So we're in the room and we have created our guest link. And now that we're in, we can see that we have some new buttons added. We have a solo talk, a deafen guest, a blind guest button, and I'll just invite actually a second guest in. So we have two guests. I'll mute them again. Now when I press the blind guest button, the guest that I blinded goes black on all the inbound windows. So they can still see themselves, but they can't see any other remote video.
Oh, that gives more power there to the director. Maybe their screen's messed up or something's happening and they just want to blind it so it's not distracting. That's actually pretty cool.
D&D gamers really like it. They want to blind a particular player of a game from not seeing something. So the D&D crowd, the Scrabble crowd, the board game crowd really asked for that.
Now, wait a second. They want to blind them from seeing the event that's happening to give them an advantage? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I think the idea is there's people who are broadcasting the show, and they want to just have intermissions where they talk about things, and then they blind them and then continue the show.
I gotcha. Hey, continue the show. As always, this is fun doing a show, and I always think of it as the director behind the scenes controlling a lot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, we also have a solo talk button. You need to enable the director for this to work. But once the director's chat has been enabled, you can do solo talk. And the guests, that particular guest you're talking to will be the only one that can hear you. All the other guests in the room won't be able to hear the director. So you can just kind of have a solo talk. So there's someone you want to adjust lighting for, you can talk to them. That coincides with the text messaging. So you can send direct messages as well. People ask about mix order quite a bit. I don't know how much we talked about on that, but it allows you to reorder which order people are in a scene. So you can go up or down, and it will shift them left and right.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool there. I'm going to have to try that one. That's actually a nice feature. I mean, it doesn't sound like much, but moving it around on who's going to be maybe at the top of something so that they're the main speaker, ordering them on speakers who are next. That's a nice add there, as even from the director side. But those who are also speaking, they know who's up front and who's kind of currently on deck, basically.
Pretty much. You can order that and everyone will see the order. It's a sneak peek of what's going to happen in the next few versions as I give you more control over scenes. This is just baby steps towards adding customization on how things work. And that rolls into one of the features that people were highly requesting of me. And that is an alternative way of doing Screenshare. So previously with Screenshare, it changed your camera. So now when you do Screenshare, it doesn't. So now when you do a Screenshare, it creates a separate video. And in the control room, you can see that Screenshare shows up as a new source.
Oh, that's nice. That's folks, I'm looking at my director panel right now as he's doing that because I want to see some of these things in action as well and see some of the functionality. I think I was probably one of the biggest ones requesting some of this functionality there with the Screenshare, because what we would do is have a guest, not only their video on, but also the application they were sharing, and you pull both feeds into it, and it gets to be a little bit of taxing on the end user's computer. But
there's still the legacy way of doing it. So you can still go to new Screenshare, select a Screenshare, and change your camera, and then hit stop sharing and go back to your original camera. So you can still switch sources, but the default for most guests in a room will now be the ability to create a whole new stream, and it shows up with a unique ID in the director's room. It shows up with your stream ID and a second stream ID, or if you have a label and stream ID. So you can identify who belongs to what. And in the future, I'll be able to let you resize these windows independently, right? So just like a solo chat, you'd be able to make larger, and a particular video in a scene will be larger than the others. So that'll be probably upcoming functionality, but this is a step to that.
And I really like that functionality of giving more control, once again, to the director, and having that as a separate link to go ahead and put that into your OBS. And then you'll really capture that for your streams. But also, it allows you to quickly switch some things on your end to actually capture these for your content. Really awesome, Adam. Looking in the future here, when we do the next release, and talk specifically maybe about screen sharing, I think we can capture a whole, 15, 30 minutes on just that topic alone.
Totally. Screen sharing, is a very popular item. So it's going to get a lot of attention for sure.
All right. So, Steve, what do you have next in store for us for version 16 here?
A big part of this week was on the back end, less a feature, but more of an enhancement. There's been a lot of usage. So we've added load balancers and we've added basic denial of service. So users who might flood the system. There hasn't been an incident so far, but there's been a lot of usage. So I'm just trying to preempt problems by putting in place a lot of protections there. OBS Ninja is very light on server-side components. There's really not much there, but still adding as much protection as I can. Last time we talked, I mentioned we introduced macOS support natively into OBS. This week, I've took that a step further. Optimized the code so that it's more efficient, more optimized for that new version of OBS. And to help reduce the strain even more on, let's say, older Macs, each time a video in a group room is shown, the video is now scaled down to fit the window spacing they take up. So if you are a very small window in a large group room, instead of the previous logic where the other remote user just sent to you an approximate size window with an approximately lower resolution and bit rate, this new version will now very accurately calculate the exact size of that window. And that has seemed to improve the efficiency a little bit by optimizing it. And that same logic is also applied to the OBS scenes now. So when you have multiple people in an OBS scene, even if you're pulling in sources at 5 megabits per second, I'm going to limit the resolution so it only uses up the pixels needed for the screen. 1-to-1 pixel matching, you get sharper images because there's no scaling, and it reduces the CPU load for both the OBS system and the remote publisher. So that's kind of complicated, but that's an enhancement, and we've done some testing, and we've seen it freed up a little bit of extra CPU headroom.
Now, I think that's one of the features you really can't capture physically, and it's something you have to talk about and something you have to bring to light to everybody. Now, I think that since we're capturing this here in the version 16 release notes, it's something to take a look at or keep an eye on, and that Steve's making some enhancements, not only for your current Mac to handle all these awesome features on that one, but if you have an older Mac, he's taking that into consideration here and adding some of these optimization enhancements and lightening the load on your computer, which I think is a huge improvement because, as you know, when certain equipment gets older, it gets slower. Well, in this case, Steve's taking that initiative here and making sure that his tool, OBS Ninja, is working optimized within your current hardware. So that's a huge improvement, Steve. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. OBS Ninja is a little bit heavy on CPU at times, and so I'm doing everything under the sun to make it as efficient as possible while still allowing it to be a free product. What else do we have? There's sound effects you can add to the URL. You can type in beep, or there's a few Easter eggs you can kind of find in the code to have different sound effects. But when you get a chat message or when someone raises their hand in the group room, it will give a beep to either the director or to the participant. Some users wanted more sound effects for conference purposes. And one other thing that I think is important that's not really obvious is there's a version of OBS Ninja now hosted in Hong Kong on AWS servers. The reason we have done that...
Oh, as everybody... So, as Steve mentioned, when he mentioned AWS, I work for AWS. I'm a huge fan of the product. So when he said this was released on that one, I was like, yes, I can promote it as much as I want.
I'm a huge fan of AWS. 1 second. There we go.
I'm keeping this in the video, Steve. If you switching hats here to the AWS Deep Racer, in the back, he has an Evo, as you can see it right there. So, Steve, I appreciate the support. All right, let's get back to the news that's been up there in Hong Kong.
So, problem with the way I have OBS Ninja hosted currently is the security and the location is getting blocked in mainland. So, hosting it on AWS in Hong Kong with some different security configurations have allowed it to be accessible. So that's exciting for those who are looking to use it. The only catch is the domain name is different. So if you want to use this China-hosted version, it is called insecure.cam. Insecure.cam.
Okay. So, folks, I will put that in the description below. I love the URL. That's pretty good.
Awesome. There's probably several other things. Oh, I am missing a lot of things. I'm looking at my screen here. I have a Stream Deck, right? And you can now, looking at OBS Ninja, you can add a command called MIDI. And what that does is it enables a hotkey.
Oh,
control.
Look at that right there. You got it for mute on and off. Nice.
And that works via the MIDI interface with Chrome. So you can program to mute the camera, mute the mic, things like that. Now via your Stream Deck, it's a little bit of work to set up, and you have to enable it via the URL parameter. But if you are serious about getting your production streamlined, you can now do that with hotkeys.
You know what, Steve? I think that's going to be a video I do, a little tips and trips there for using your Stream Deck with OBS Ninja. Stay tuned. You never know what I'm going to release.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. I think that's the main features that come to mind. There's going to be a release very soon in lining with this video release, and you can check the release notes for more details on everything there.
Well, Steve, as always, I appreciate you doing these videos with me and getting these out as quick as possible for the latest release. Now, if you want to see more content around YouTube and the hottest free tool out there, OBS Ninja, don't forget to go ahead and take a look at the playlist I have up here of all our other versions, including specifically some tips on how to use the OBS Ninja Director. And that's always improving, and I got to stay up to date on some of those. I really appreciate the updates you do to this software, including the Director interface, Steve.
Thank you. I'll keep at it.
All right, folks, you heard it here. Version 16 release will coincide with this video. I hope you appreciate it. Don't forget to smash that like, subscribe, and notification button for when we release the next video around OBS Ninja. As always, Steve, thank you so much for doing these with me. I appreciate it, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye, John.